The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Maricel Halili. The camp of former presidential economic advisor Michael Yang has asked the Senate to excuse his absence in today's hearing. In a letter, Yang's counsel, attorney Raymond Fortun, said his client had been diagnosed with pharyngitis last November 24. Fortun says Yang was advised to rest and isolate for a week until a possible infection for COVID-19 has been ruled out. Yang recently sought the Supreme Court's help in blocking the Senate arrest orders filed against him. This is in connection to his alleged involvement on anomalous pandemic deals, which are currently being investigated by the Senate Blue Ribbon panel. The country's economic team held a virtual briefing today to discuss plans on post-pandemic recovery. Let's get the latest from Shyla Francisco, who is joining us via Zoom. Shyla, hi, good afternoon. What did the economic manager say about the country's recovery? Are we on track?
Maricel, economic managers are bullish on the growth prospects moving forward. They are all saying that the country is ready for a strong recovery. Earlier, during his speech, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez, for one, mentioned that the numbers are all in our favor in terms of GDP. For example, we are on track to reach the 4 to 5% target and to be back to pre-pandemic levels by 2022. Exports, imports, remittances, and net investments data are all improving, and with the declining cases, they expect a full recovery of the economy by the onset of the new year. They also expect revenue collection to go back to pre-pandemic level by next year, thereby resulting to declining budget deficit. Maricel?
Yes, Shyla, but President Duterte is just months away from the end of his term. What's the priority here in terms of sustaining economic recovery?
Maricel, NEDA Secretary Carl Chua says the priority is really for the reopening of the economy. Among the targets is the full resumption of face-to-face classes and the shift to alert level 1 by January 2022. They also target to have a full capacity for public transportation and the easing of travel restrictions. And in the remaining months of the Duterte administration, they are prioritizing some sectors, including modernizing governance through digital reform and accelerating the rollout of infrastructure projects. In terms of legislation, they also hope to pursue some economic liberalization bills and complete the tax reform program. And in line with this, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez mentioned earlier that they are now working on crafting a transition plan for the next administration to handle the risks brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. They say some of the priorities should include a roadmap for financial consolidation that will also need tax reform priority programs. Maricel?
Okay, having said that, Shyla, what are the sectors to watch out for and those that still need some boost?
Maricel, first off, NEDA Secretary Carl Chua mentioned that some of the sectors that they are looking out for have seen improvements, including airlines, fast food, and malls. And the investments that they need moving forward will need to be in the sectors of manufacturing, of renewable energy, research and development, and also in digital technology. Earlier, also, BSP Governor Benjamin Jokno says that he is encouraging investments in the digital space, particularly in the technologies and technical expertise of investors to help the country reach its economic growth faster and achieve the financial inclusion objectives of the country. Moving forward, among the priorities for the next administration should also include smarter infrastructure, climate change, innovation, and regional equity. Maricel?
Yes, but how about the foreign businesses, Shyla? Do they have some concerns, especially the international institutions, when it comes to the Philippine economic status?
Marcel, currently the forum is still ongoing, but what we caught on earlier was that the World Bank said that given the improvements, the Philippines is really poised to be a growth powerhouse in this pandemic, and the Philippines is likely to solidly rebound this year. Some of the concerns, however, is the U.S. inflation and its impact that will have on the Philippines. On the legislation front, both World Bank and American Chamber of Commerce cited the need to amend the Public Service Act, although there are are bills, economic liberalization bills that are currently being passed on the Congress. They said the amendments to the Public Service Acts creates much bigger opportunity for investors to come in. And on that note, the NEDA says that they are working with the Senate to amend some of the provisions in the Public Service Act. Maricel?
All right, thank you for that update. That was Shyla Francisco reporting live from Taguig City. The World Health Organization confirms the detection of a new COVID-19 variant from South Africa. So far, the WHO said that there are 100 samples that tested positive for the new South African variant. An early analysis showed that this variant carries an unusually large number of mutations that will require further study. Experts are also trying to determine the impact of this new variant on vaccines. Countries like Israel and the United Kingdom are now restricting travel to South Africa and other African countries. DOH expert panel member Dr. Edsel Salvania insists more details about this variant are still being studied. Nevertheless, he reminds the public to continue following health protocols.
Sa ngayon, konti pa lang yung alam natin kasi yung mutations naman na nakikita natin, maraming mutations, more than 30 mutations nga sa spike protein, while nakakabahala yung presence of certain mutations, hindi automatic na mas nakakamatay ito or mas natransmit or mas bumababa yung epekto ng ating vaccines.
It's been a year since the launch of Bloomberg's COVID-19 Resilience Ranking, which measures how effective countries are in dealing with the pandemic. Let's see how that has affected global response as a whole in this quick take video.
It's been 1 year since the launch of the Bloomberg COVID Resilience Ranking, and leaders from all over the world have taken notice.
And America was ranked first in Bloomberg's COVID Resilience Ranking. None of this happened by accident.
A recent Bloomberg report revealed that thanks to the hard work of the team of 5 million, New Zealand is currently rated as the most COVID-19 resilient country in the world.
Cei de la Bloomberg, România se menține la nivel global pe locul 14 în ceea ce privește campania de vaccinare.
有关于蓬勃的指标，其实它都跟着疫情的状况有一些指标上的调整。
And now we're going behind the scenes with Bloomberg's Rachel Chang, who has been leading the project. Hi, Rachel. Tell us how the monthly COVID resilience ranking started and why.
So we first had the idea for a COVID resilience ranking, or a way to look at how different countries were dealing with the same threat. I mean, simply because this is probably the first time in generations that every single country in the world was facing the same public health crisis. It was so difficult really to keep up with what each region or even each country was doing. Where were the places that were doing the best? Where were the places having the best strategies for dealing with COVID? And so that was really the idea behind the ranking, an easy way to look at through data where the best practices were when dealing with this once-in-a-generation public health crisis.
And can you tell us a bit about how it works, how the ranking is compiled every month?
So every month, when we first started, we had 10 data points, and these involved from COVID cases to COVID fatalities. We also had another data point specifically on deaths, which was overall mortality per 1 million people. We also had data points that looked at the quality of the country's health system, its Human Development Index, according to the United Nations. And then we had a data point that looked at the strictness of its lockdown actions. That was compiled by Oxford University, its stringency index. What happened in June was that we did have a revamp where we added 2 indicators to reflect reopening and the progress of normalization. Because at that point, vaccines were very common already in the developed economies, and we saw a lot of economies racing to normalize life for their people.
We've seen world leaders react to the rankings, sometimes even critically. Where do you go from here?
I think the mission of the ranking has always been for people to be able to see in an easy way what each place was doing and where the best practices were. When I think about the controversy or the reaction. I think I always remember at one point the Philippines was being asked by their own media, why was the Philippines always ranked so low? And I think there was an official, I can't remember who exactly, I think a health ministry official who said, well, the ranking helps us see where we can do better. And I just thought that very much captured the mission and the spirit of this project and why we've put so much effort into it month after month for a year. It's really for people to see where the best practices are and hopefully learn from that, and along the way be able to save lives and be able to deal with the pandemic in a better way.
The Philippines continues to see improvement in its COVID-19 cases today. The Health Department reports less than 1,000 new COVID infections for a third straight day. This brought the country's total caseload to 2,830,000. Some 17,500 remain active. Over 140 patients died of the disease overnight, pushing the death toll to 48,000. Meanwhile, total recoveries are now at 2,764,000, with nearly 800 new survivors logged in the past 24 hours. Out of the 38,900 tests conducted, only 2.5% tested positive for the virus. Here's a quick look at today's other top stories. Pinoy sports fans can soon watch their favorite athletes live, according to the Games and Amusement Board. GAB Chairman Baha Mitra says meetings with health officials are ongoing and guidelines may be released in a few months. The Securities and Exchange Commission has issued a halt order on CN Coin, owned by online personality CN Gaza. The SEC says the digital currency is not registered as a corporation or partnership. It also has no secondary license to operate as a broker or dealer of securities. And vaccine star Carlito Galvez Jr. says they still need 51,000 volunteers for the national vaccine drive. This is for 11,000 vaccination centers nationwide that will participate in the three-day campaign from November 29 to December 1. The Metro Manila Council, meanwhile, has offered to send vaccine personnel to nearby provinces. For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Maricel Halili. We are One News.